Hey, you, welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here because it's time that we finally dive in and uncover the magic that is the matriarch or the mother huntress archetype. These have been some of my best friends and mentors over the course of my lifetime, and I've got a big old soft spot for our matriarchs. They definitely have had just a tremendous influence over my life and in my own queen seasons, because remember, every single woman cycles through every archetype, sometimes as often as on a daily basis, but it can be weekly, monthly, annually. We go through seasons where we naturally embody these different archetypes in our lives. But when we go through our queen seasons like I did, wow, they are just so absolutely powerful because they allow us to get more done than we ever do otherwise. They are just so decadent, full of self-care, and they are really, really, really rewarding for us in our careers. And every woman deserves a decadent and productive queen season. So that's what we're going to be diving into just a little bit tonight, which is an overview of our matriarch archetype. So if you haven't already, I need you to just hop on down to the description where I've left you a handy dandy link to download my Wild Woman Archetype Assessment. It's free, obviously. It's not real hard. It's actually a lot of fun to run through. And once you get your results, you're going to find out, hey, if you are in fact a matriarch, and maybe that's why you're here watching right now, because you just found out, hey, I'm the matriarch, or I'm in a matriarch season. Congratulations if you are. That means you are getting a lot done, or you're about to. And once you have your results, then you'll be ready to rock and roll with us. So if you haven't already downloaded it, just hit pause for a second, grab it, download it. It'll just take you a couple minutes to go through and answer old Cosmo quiz style, basically, right? So if you used to take magazine quizzes when you were young, like I did, then you know exactly what to do. Add up your score at the end of each section, and it will reveal to you exactly what your archetype is. Plus, you'll get to uncover all kinds of other juicy little tidbits of information, like your behavioral cycle blind spots, who your ideal clients are. And now we're going to be diving into things like your desires, your goals, your fears, your signature moves as a matriarch, and all kinds of other good stuff. It's going to help us really recognize ourselves as well as the other matriarchs in our life. And it'll give us a whole hell of a lot of respect for the matriarchs, which they really deserve. Now, like I said, every woman goes through a motherhood season, matriarch season, queen huntress season. There's a million names for this because what we're ultimately talking about are Jungian archetypes, which were brought to us by Carl Jung, good buddy of Sigmund Freud back in the day. And these archetypes are nothing more than our set of unconscious behavioral patterns, and by labeling these archetypes and defining them, it makes it so much easier for us to see how we're getting in our own way, what kinds of things we need to look out for in order to help us progress towards our goals in life, in order to make meaningful progress, and where our behavioral blind spots are. So it's just the ultimate time saver and productivity hack as far as I'm concerned. Because listen, you can invest all the money in all the fancy coaches and strategists and tools and courses and all the things. But until you understand the unconscious behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs that are driving your successes or failures, you're just going to keep repeating the same results, which is not what you're interested in. You've already been there and done that, and you're ready for more. In fact, if you're really craving a whole lot more, you might definitely be in that matriarch season, because her desires almost know no bounds, and we celebrate the hell out of that. Okay, so the cool thing about matriarchs is they love to be of service. They love to do and achieve things, and they often define themselves by their achievements. So, if you are, or if you can think of any women in your life who love to chase achievements, likely a matriarch, or at least a woman going through her matriarch season, okay? But this desire to be of service can be both a good thing or a bad thing, similar to our people pleasing rebel maidens that we already discussed. This desire to be of service can come from a very good place, but it can also come from a less than admirable or positive place at times. And it can at times be about wanting to have control or to micromanage and control a certain result. So, when we dive into shadow work, we are looking at the matriarch to start releasing control and indulging in surrender practices, which will help to make sure that when she is showing up to be of service, it's coming from the right place. And that will help her to prevent herself from certain types of patterns in relationships that often lead to resentment, especially in the romance department. This is one of the leading causes, I believe, of divorce with matriarchs. So, it's really important that we keep an eye on our desire to be of service in our matriarch season and what that is really rooted in. Now, the goal of the matriarch's life, her life's mission, if you will, is to contribute to other people's happiness, to help, to nurture. My goodness, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this just magnificent? And so much of what we love, respect, and admire about women. And it can really be an unconditional amount of love that flows forth from the mother, the matriarch, um, whatever you want to call her. And again, I want to remind you always that motherhood has nothing to do with giving birth in this universe, in my wildly creative universe. Motherhood comes from birthing creations. It comes from birthing progress. It comes from nurturing ourselves. It has nothing to do with giving birth to another human being, okay? And honestly, until you learn to nurture and care for yourself unconditionally, you're going to be limited in your ability to care for others in a holistic and unconditional way, right? So it's so important that our practice of motherhood really begins at home with ourselves and nurturing our own inner child. We'll get into techniques and strategies for doing all of this in future episodes, but for now, I just want to keep your awareness drawn to the fact that once a matriarch feels she has contributed to other people's happiness, has nurtured them, has helped them, has allowed them to flourish, she's going to find a deep sense of fulfillment. So I hope that you find that for yourself as well. Now, that deep fear, and as we know, when it comes to things like buying decisions and stuff like that, we as human beings at our core want to be comfortable. We're constantly moving away from discomfort on an unconscious level, which means we're always running away from our fears on an unconscious level unless we are paying attention to it. Now, our mothers, our matriarchs, our queen huntresses, their deepest fear is to not be seen, recognized, truly heard for who she really is at her core, not just for what she does, because she carries out all these activities and does all of these things partially because she wants to be seen, recognized, respected, heard, right? And valued on a deep level. And she's so afraid that no one will ever actually see her beyond her accomplishments, beyond what she does, and really respect her for who she is in her heart, in her soul. She's so afraid that she'll be met with ingratitude or that she will feel useless. So these are our workaholics. These are our women who lose their job and suddenly feel like they are completely worthless when, of course, we know that our work has nothing to do with our worth as humans. However, queens, mothers, matriarchs, they struggle with this concept the most. Just like our rebel maidens, for example, are petrified of abandonment and are constantly carrying out behaviors to prevent themselves from being abandoned. Queens do the same thing about their fear of being met with ingratitude or feeling useless. Now, that signature move that likes to rear its head during these times is being extra attentive and generous. Now, of course, that seems awesome, right? And it is awesome, except for when it gets in the queen's way of her own satisfaction, self-care, nurturing, and fulfillment. And just like a rebel maiden, she does have the ability or tendency to sink into codependency and start giving herself away to the point where she then kind of martyrs herself. So that's always something to keep an eye out for. But when you're in your light and you are grounded and you've got an eye on that shadow, your ability as a matriarch to be attentive and generous is unparalleled, and my goodness, will it bring you unbelievable results in sales as you scale your business, because this nurturing within you just makes you an incredible audience builder. And your hidden talent is that you are an exceptional gift giver. So if you fill your team and community with people whose love language is receiving gifts, aka rebel maidens, well, my goodness, is your life going to be filled with a lot of joy and gratitude and that recognition that you're craving. Yeah, recognition, Fitzy. He loves recognition. Silly Fitz. He had to come up in my lap and help me teach the rest of this. Okay, Fitz, let's let the ladies know all about the examples. And keeping it consistent, I forgot to make a change on one of the slides. But my goodness, do I celebrate this about myself, because at the end of the day, we are getting this done right now, and that's the beauty of being live. And it's also this is really truly meaningful progress for a perfectionist rebel maiden like myself to not scrap this, which I can't really do because it's live. I mean, I could delete it afterwards, but I'm going to leave it up because these little itty bitty mistakes that don't make a real significant difference in the end are actually beautiful little teachable moments like this, because I'm showing you that when you do your shadow work around being a perfectionist, that it actually allows you to be so much more productive and vulnerable and share just all kinds of really human sides of yourself. So here you are seeing me being a human and leaving in that Ariel from The Little Mermaid on the matriarch slide, which she's not. So that would actually be a really cool little quiz question. And in fact, if you bring this up to me, I might just reward you with a little Easter egg bonus gift. Not in the comments because that's a little too obvious, but if you shoot me a DM on Instagram at Wildly Creative Sarah, how about let's do that? So find me on Wildly Creative Sarah on Instagram. Do me a solid, hit that follow, and shoot me a DM screenshotting or taking a picture of this slide, and I'll hit you back with a special surprise. That's my promise to you. Okay, so now that we've made the most of this little teachable moment, let's keep it moving because Fitz gets antsy and he doesn't have time to sit around while we nerd out about matriarchs all day. What he wants me to let you know, though, is that although the queen from Snow White is a real typical portrayal of the queen, it is an old school patriarchy Disney's version of the queen. And the queen is so often portrayed as evil in film and literature and different things. Why is that? Why would the patriarchy portray queens or matriarchs as evil? So obviously we know that is absolute bullshit. But it is an example that of actually, if we take a look at the queen from Snow White and her vanity and the fact that she is so competitive over Snow White and her attention and the beauty she gets, that's actually a real thing that happens between uh, matriarchs in their shadow and rebel maidens in their light. That is a real thing. So that's actually something to be mindful of in terms of relationships. And if you are a matriarch and you have your own business, you're a freelancer, you're a coach, you're a consultant, and you're trying to figure out what kinds of clients you should work with, yes, you would do so well with Rebel Maidens as long as you both have an eye out for that blind spot, which you both share, which is codependency. And if you are not aware of it and you're both in your shadow, or the matriarch, who's usually going to be the leader or the boss in the situation, is in her shadow, we got an evil queen Snow White kind of situation start to evolve. And that's not good for anybody. So that's something to keep an eye out for, while also reminding ourselves of the fact that the patriarchy's typical portrayal of the queen is usually that she's evil in some way, and that is BS. Just because a woman is in power does not make her evil, okay? All right, so we've also been talking about Golden Girls, Sex and the City, Big Bang, and Friends. So continuing with that trend, on Golden Girls, B. Arthur, Dorothy is our queen. She is nurturing, she's in charge, she's the logical, sensible leader. I think she is a perfect portrayal of a headstrong matriarch. Charlotte from Sex and the City is another beautiful example. If we think about how Charlotte is obsessed with appearances, is very concerned with gift giving and giving the right gifts at the right time and how they look and how they make her look. She's very concerned with the palace, right? That's why she wants that penthouse apartment so bad. All of these different things are very typical of a queen. Bernadette from Big Bang Theory. So, just love her. I think my favorite scene ever from that whole show is that song that oh my gosh, now I'm not going to be able to think of his name, that Wallowitz sings to her when she's in quarantine. If you know what I'm talking about, then you will definitely appreciate that as a matriarch, because it's like the sweetest song ever. But the point being that Bernadette is, again, headstrong. She calls the shots. She was the runner of that household. She is the head of her family. And when she speaks up and runs things, people listen, they follow suit. And that's why she takes leadership positions in her corporate prescription sales job, right? So the other final and most obvious example is our clean, hyper organized, gotta have babies yesterday Queen Monica from Friends. Also concerned about appearances. Also gets a little bit inner perfectionism. But that's again about her concern about appearances and her neediness to prepare herself to be the perfect mother, because her whole journey, that entire show, is about getting to motherhood, which is why when it ends with her finally getting her twins, there's such a deep sense of fulfillment for her. Okay. And finally, where we typically see our matriarchs, corporate executive roles, or at least somewhere on that ladder on their way up, coaches, trainers, network marketers, systems and operations specialists, and sales. My goodness, when it comes to sales, public speaking, schmoozing, network marketing, like all of these kinds of relationship building skills, you just can't get better than a matriarch. They are incredible at nurturing an audience, and I salute them for that. So, if you are looking to embody any of these kick ass attributes of a queen mother, then definitely make sure you grab this guide and start learning more about her. And you're going to want to subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get notified when I come back at you very shortly with more information about how you can leverage this archetype to scale your passions, your profits, and even your pursuits with nothing but bliss, babe. That's what it's all about. Our wildly creative pursuits do not have to be painful all the time. They can be a whole hell of a lot of fun, even while keeping it professional. So, thanks again for joining me for this episode. I'm so proud of the way you've been moving through this content, and I can't wait to see you for our fourth installment where we dive into the Wild Enchantress. She's amazing, and you're going to love her.